Welcome, Salima. You're a writer, a speaker, an actor, a coach, and the co-founder of Women Are Mad, a mental health movement and podcast with more than 1 million downloads. You thrive on stories. You love telling them, performing them, and shaping them with others. You help people find their voice, whether on stage, in conversation, or in life. You have a viral speech on the Mothmain stage about changing your life, which also had millions of listeners. Salima, I'm excited to talk to you because you also have interviewed incredible women over a long period of time. And so we want to hear all of your insights about that. But first of all, tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Where do I start? I will start with where I'm sitting. So I'm sitting in a farmhouse in the countryside. But I lived in London for many years before that, although I was born and brought up a country girl. Where shall I start this? It's so interesting. By the time you reach your 40s, I think it becomes increasingly difficult to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Like in my 20s, I would have just been like, bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Whereas at this point in my life, there are so many facets, I never know where to start. So I'm gonna tell you that I've got 3 children, and a long-term partner. I'm going to tell you that a lot of my day-to-day work at the moment is writing. I'm writing a novel. I've got a memoir that's going out to publishers imminently. I coach. So I coach mainly women, mainly women in midlife, I suppose. One-to-one coaching is kind of one of my loves. It's the thing that kind of propels me through my week. I see my coaching as real tent poles to my creative week. So it's a really important part of my work. I now record a weekly podcast with one of my dearest friends, Jennifer Cox, who's a psychotherapist, called Women Are Mad, where we interview extraordinary women each week, well, much like you do, about how anger has propelled them through their lives. So it's quite an interesting inroad. We co-founded Women Are Mad a couple of years ago because Jenny was writing this brilliant book, Women Are Angry. And I suggested a podcast, but I said to Jenny at the time, the only problem is I never get angry. So I'm not really sure how this is going to work. And Jenny, having known me since I was 18, went, oh my God, this is exactly why we need to do it. Because speaking as a now reformed people pleaser, I found anger very difficult to express for many years. I found it very important to keep everything calm around me. I was a hypervigilant kid, so I turned into an adult who felt the real need to make sure everything was safe, in inverted commas, around me. But as I now understand, that's not possible. It's a slight God complex anyway. And this podcast has been really important to me coming back to myself in these last couple of years.
Salima, I love your story. You're an incredible storyteller. The podcast is amazing. It's like doing therapy, right? I love listening to it. And every week you'll touch on something that then you think, yes, exactly. Exactly. It's many of those moments. And I feel that we women really have been taught to suppress our emotions, our desires, our, the feelings of being angry and mad because we're always there for everybody else. It's a real conditioning, and you unpack that, which I think is super important. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about those takeaways and learnings? If you look at this podcast and interviewing so many women, what would you say are your main learnings? What are the things that you could share with us?
The overwhelming thing I have taken away from interviewing so many extraordinary women is turn up as yourself. Like that, like it, and I know that sounds super simplistic, but honestly, I've really learned that the only value we have is our very individual voice. I read recently that the probability of us all being born is something like 400 trillion to one. So that voice that you or I have, like, is utterly unique to ourselves. And so we kind of owe it to ourselves to turn up as us, like just us. And what I have learned from all those women is not everyone's going to like that. Not everybody is going to want to hear it. Some people might even be repelled by it. But those are not reasons for you to not keep speaking and turning up as yourself. That is the core to, as to what I have learned. And the reason I think it is so important is because if you access who you really, really are, and we overuse the term authenticity all the time, so it's almost become a cliche. So I don't like to use that word so much, but like coming back to you all the time. It's a superpower. Once you've come back to yourself, I will react like pretty honestly to whatever you say to me then. And then I think our instinct can like get into action. And I think a lot of us are very far away from our instinct. We're pretty divorced often, between head and heart. And there's a lot of ought to do this, better finish this is not appropriate, I'm not sure, this is frightening. But when we really listen to our instinct, and often it's like covered in like layers and layers, so it's difficult to kind of access it. Like that's the magic, right? Because our instinct is a combination of our gut, our years of history, our experience. Our gut is saying, go for it, don't go for it, right person, right place, wrong time. Like our gut knows all of it. And I'm always wary of all these terms that we hear bandied around a lot about manifesting, about self-care. There's lots of, let the universe do it for you or whatever. I just think it's all much simpler than that. I don't think you need to spend any money on expensive courses, even buy loads of self-help books, anything like that. I think all the answers are in yourself. And sometimes you might need help or guidance to find that part of you. And there are lots of ways to do that. But I think generally, if we close our eyes and come back to ourselves, all the answers are there.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing to say, Salima. And actually, that is always the outcome of all of these courses anyways. So actually, this is where you get to anyways. Salima, I'm wondering, now that you're doing this podcast, you're doing your work, what do you feel, what really matters to you now, and how do you want to matter in the world? You said you just wrote a memoir. I want to know more about that process and what is that? What do you feel you really want to show up for? And how do you want others to see that?
Oh, that's a great question. I am very informed by being a mother. And when I say mother, I'm really aware that we can all be mothers in very different ways. Yeah. So one can be a mother to neighbors, one can be a mother to elders, one can be a mother in many different forms. I happen to be a mother of 3 children. So I just want to make that clear, that I see mothering as a much bigger thing. But my only personal experience of it is that I'm really aware I'm raising 2 girls and a boy, and I want them to see me being courageous. I want them to see me taking leaps. I want them to see me showing up as myself. I'm also aware with my girls, when I think about like the impulses that a lot of my kids are teenagers now, that a lot of things that teenagers are seeing around them. I want my girls in particular to understand that their worth is in no way connected to how they look, and that, yeah, sure, their mum happens to like pretty dresses and things, but I can joke about it. It's neither here nor there. Whether you've got short legs or long legs is just a genetic freaky accident, and we can enjoy the aesthetic, but it's in no way linked to your worth. So that's a really important part of how I am these days, that yeah, take it or leave it. Like, let's just play with it. Sure, I'm not saying you have to wear, like a Hessian sack, and I can be frivolous and enjoy these things, but also like that is not who you are. So that's a really important aspect of who I am. Yes, seeing what they see when they look at me, and I didn't used to think of that when they were so tiny, but my ambition has really resurfaced in these recent years. And I think it's because I'm realizing that my voice has some worth. I didn't always think that. I didn't always think I had anything worthy to say, or I should be listened to. Whereas I now think that I'm pretty in tune with who I am. And I know from a lot of my coaching work with women in particular that sometimes it's not always easy to do that or to turn up like that. And I'm pretty passionate about women in particular, like not learning. Like Helen Mirren, I saw a meme recently where she said, if I had a daughter, the first thing I would teach her is to say fuck off rather than thank you. Because I feel quite passionately about that. Like, whether it's in my personal life or whether it's in my professional life, just like having honest conversations, bluntness, straightforwardness. My friendships have changed over the last 5-10 years. My professional life has really changed. And so I'm really aware of surrounding myself by women in particular, because I love my female friendships. They're really, really important to me. I'm really conscious of this next half of my life in being surrounded by women who are also engaged and excited and like wanting to do interesting things. So I also am looking for joy. I think I was a really serious kid. I studied really hard. I was a hypervigilant kid, had an alcoholic father. I definitely didn't become an actor by accident, because I think I definitely wanted to play, in my 20s. And I'm still learning how to play. Like, for me, there's nothing more important than humor. I don't think we take humor seriously enough. Like, I love funny because I think humor is like the viaduct into your soul. I really do. In fact, I always say to people, when you're dating, like, make sure they make you laugh. Like, forget the other stuff can fall into place. Like, can they dance, and well, can they make you laugh, like, really? And I mean like belly laugh. I don't mean like two men walked into a pub kind of joke. I mean like absolutely belly laugh, because shared humor is a shared worldview. And I think we kind of go, oh yeah, he's a funny guy, or she's so sweet, she like makes jokes. No, like, if you're funny, I think you dare to see the world like really, really truthfully, like.
Yes, and I think you can have so many shared experiences, even if they're challenging, and you will bring it to a place where it's bearable.
Yes, exactly that. That some of the darkest moments in my life I've got through because of humor. Like, my estranged father died about 18 months ago. And navigating that kind of grief, which was very complicated, involved a lot of humor, involved a lot of me being in fields with friends, laughing and laughing and laughing, about some really dark things
Yeah.
that would sound terrible out of context. But, I was like crouching down and crying with laughter about it.
Salima, you have had this incredible talk about changing your life. You had your life partner who was really not well. He was close to a breakdown potentially, and you knew you had to pull the handbrake. You had to change your life completely. You had to move out of London. It got a lot of views, and I always think that people who are so brave, telling their stories so vulnerably, give us permission to do the same thing, to look the truth in the eye, right? Which we find these sort of uncomfortable subjects, we often push them away, and then things progress progress and things get worse. And so I loved that talk you did, because it's such an important talk, and it's something we don't talk about often enough, especially with all these patriarchal conditionings that we as women and men hold, right? Where men always think they need to be able to perform the whole time, they need to be able to take care of their families, they need to be the strong guys, etc. pp. And it's a beautiful story where you said, we are gonna take care of you for a change, and you changed your life completely. Tell us a little bit how that was, telling that story, and when you look back now thinking, gosh, what are the feelings about that, and was it 100% the right thing? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so with the, so if anyone who's watching or listening to this, they might not know what this is. So it's the Moth podcast. That's a very big American podcast. And they share some stories on their Instagram account, and mine just kind of went viral on Instagram and TikTok. I had like DM. I mean, it went viral on LinkedIn hilariously as well, which I barely use. But just I had, it was just hundreds literally of messages from people telling me their stories. Lots of high profile people sharing it. It was quite overwhelming. But just going back, so and just to tell people again, if they haven't heard this story, yeah. So my partner was very stressed with his business, and the short version is we left London very quickly, and it was kind of initiated by me. We'd really changed our lives very quickly. So a friend of mine suggested that it might be a great Moth story, and she put me in touch with the producers, who said, we'd love you to be on the main stage and tell it. So I hated the process of doing it, because it was like 6 months to a year after the whole thing had happened. And there's a lot of preparation. I was writing various drafts of it, working with a producer. And it was very painful. I was thinking, why am I sharing this? I kept doing it. And then you perform it at the Union Chapel in London, which is about an audience of about 1,500 people. I think it's a very big audience. I was very nervous doing it. And I did it, and it was an amazing reception. And then I kind of forgot about it for another 18 months, because it takes a while for it to come on. And then at the beginning of February this year, I saw on Instagram I'd been tagged in this thing, and it was my speech, in full. And so I watched it, and my immediate reaction was of panic, because I just thought it was too much to share, for my partner, and which is too much. So I ran to show him, and I said, I'm just going to tell them to take it down. But I'd already just told them to take it off Instagram. It was just too much. I mean, it can go on the podcast. No one will listen to it, like the end. But he listened to it, because I hadn't let him come to see it. And he said, you've got to keep it on there, because it's really, really important that people see this is the reality of being an entrepreneur. This is the reality of like being ambitious, of what we thought success was, how we changed our idea of what success was. Keep it on. So I kept it on, and then it kind of blew up and went mad. And it's just been extraordinary in the last 3 months, really, what people have said to me, and the conversations that I've had about it. I think some of the most touching DMs have been from men who've been very successful at points in their lives, from a financial point of view, but were quietly battling things to keep up with the Joneses and everything like that. And I think it may have touched some people as well, because this wasn't about us moving to a beach in Bali and like suddenly going, we're gonna like live simply by the sea and like weave, I don't know, rugs or whatever, and live a kind of life. I say that, we remain very ambitious financially as well. Like we haven't suddenly gone, we want to live as shepherds or something like that. It's just about redefining what it means and being more open and just saying it out loud, like bursting the bubble that like, yeah, it's really tough. Like when you are bringing up a family, you've got a business as well. You've got loads of outgoings. you want to do things. You don't come from financial safety nets or multi-generational wealth. It's scary and it's big. And most of us, in fact, all of us, have had these fear like heavy moments, stages, whether it's health, whether it's money or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we as humans like say it. You don't have to shout it out loud to everybody, but like the more people hear these stories, as you say, the more it gives us all permission to share other vulnerabilities. And then it's like a dominoes effect, right? Like, oh, I'm not mad for feeling that, or I'm not mad for thinking I should have done that, or I have these regrets. The kind of insta perfect lives are so, so dangerous to our souls, right?
Yeah. And to the next generations who think that this is the way to go, and it's dangerous actually.
And that everyone's happy and that everyone's just got these snapshots, like every success is made up of like 100 failures, right?
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Whatever you've done, like I'm really nervous at the moment because my memoir's going out to publishers, so like, but my husband said, well, what do you want? Do you want to be like a mad cat lady that like reads her chapters out to her 10 cats, the end? Like, fine, if you want to be, that's great. But no, I don't. I want my story to go out like to people. So I've got to be scared.
Yeah. Salima, so let's talk about this memoir. Tell us a bit about the process of writing it, and I would say that every author I've interviewed, and there are many within the 500 women on WeCan, this fear is just it's a personal thing to you, but it's so collective, and everybody seems to have it.
I think for me, like if I expand it out to my acting as well, and any creative thing that I've done. So, so I'm also writing a novel that will go out later this year. What I've really realized is that I cannot live in a place of anticipatory regret. So I often think about death, and I often think of myself as an 80, 90-year-old. And all I know is I need that future me to know that like I really went for it. I like said everything. And maybe it won't work out. Like maybe, my memoir won't get picked up or whatever. It's not right for the market or whatever, but then it will lead to something else, and then it will lead to something else. I'm a real believer in action creating action. So like, hence the fail again and fail again and fail again, like keep going forward. And I often think of that much older version of myself, and I want to be sitting in a garden feeling content, like laughing to myself, thinking, oh my God, and then I tried that and that didn't work, and then I went there and then that happened. Like I need it to be a really rich patchwork of ups and downs and craziness and like extraordinary things happening. So that is who really informs how I behave now in terms of work and in my personal life as well. Like I'm really informed by my elder self, and also since the passing of my dad, death. Like it's really very infused. It's given me like a real release actually, because my dad was quite a kind of like spectre in my life for many years. Like if when you're estranged from a parent as an adult, they're kind of like they're there in the background. They're always, I don't know, they're kind of like behind your shoulder. It's like a silent audience. And the child, the 10-year-old me was always hoping that it would all, he would say, I'm so sorry. I've just been like the worst dad, and I love you and I think you're amazing. But when he died, that released me oddly. It kind of made me realize, that's never happening. It's like almost like I was quite juvenile, quite young until he died. I say that well into my 40s. Like giving up that kind of expectation or that hope that he was going to come in and kind of fix it and go, oh, I'm so sorry, I just totally mucked it up for years, has made me just think we all go back to the earth, don't we? We all, it's all over. in such a fleeting moment. And there's a real beauty to that, actually. And so, like, let's get on with it. If we've got
Yes.
things to do, let's get on with it. Because I saw with him, he became angrier as he got older because I think he was full of regret, actually.
Yeah.
That's my take on it anyway.
Mm.
And yeah, I want to have like tried everything and done everything and experienced. And I think about not my legacy as such, but how people will think of me, when I do die.
Mm.
And I don't mean in a grand way. I don't mean like in a big kind of obituary kind of sense. Just like my kids or my
Yeah.
neighbors or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, she was fun. Like I want people to say she was funny. Yeah, she was pretty kind. She was funny. She was a great friend. She was so loyal.
Mm.
Um, I want those things to be remembered about me.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember I did a course once for to get over trauma, and we were supposed to write our eulogy.
Oh, I've done
Because
that.
when you think about death, you actually start living. And as you were talking, I was thinking about that. And I remember it was a traumatic moment in a way. And, I had never done it before, and I was actually quite shocked, and I cried the whole way through. But in a way, it brought to the fore what I needed to, it boiled everything down. And then I had a couple of notions, and I'm living by them since then, just because I had to, find clarity around things that I think I was fuzzy about, and because it was sort of trauma informed, and it really
Yeah.
helped me.
Yes.
Salima, what does success look like for you now? We talked about this a little bit already, and I know, it's important for you to be a great mom and a good partner and to lead by example always. But what in an ideal world, what does it look like for you? Where do you want your memoir sitting? What else is there in store for you that would mean for you like you've lived a really good life?
Um, to remain greedy in all the facets.
Mm.
So I want to do more acting work. I do a lot of voiceover work. Um, I want to build my coaching work. I want my books to be published. I want. I'm no longer afraid to say I want. And I would have been quite bashful about this 5, 10 years ago and kind of gone, oh, I don't know, just to be happy and everyone to be healthy. No, I want quite a lot actually. And I'm proud that I want quite a lot. My ambition used to be really heavily distilled into my partner and my 3 children. And I'm still very ambitious for all of them. But you know what I've kind of figured out? They've kind of got it for them. They can do it. Like, yeah, I've supported, I continue to support. There's no one I love more on this earth. But no, they've got it, so like now is the time to start thinking about what I want to be doing, you know. That's been quite a switch for me these last few years, because if you'd asked me a few years ago, it would definitely have been I want this child to be doing this partner of mine to be doing this. I also really want to come back to the idea of safety and security, because it's something I've really struggled with my whole life. And I think it's quite typical of kids of alcoholics. I know it can be quite a theme. Um, like success for me is like looking around and going, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's not perfect, sure. But like it's all good. I've made these conscious choices. I'm here right now, and that is good. um, Rather than what can be my tendency of going, well, if this is good, then something bad is over the horizon,
Mm.
or this is good, but it could be better. That's a real conscious thing of mine at the moment, to just be like, yeah, it's all okay. And also, what's the empirical evidence? The empirical evidence in my life has been always that it's always kind of worked out. It's always kind of been okay, even better actually sometimes. um when I followed my gut, actually I would add that as a kind of coda to that.
Yeah.
When I followed my gut, it's always, yeah, it's been good. So like, to lean further into that and to trust in it. So I can sit in a garden on a sunny day, read a book, and hear the wood pigeons. I love the sound of wood pigeons, and just be like, yeah, this is good. That's success.
And you've created the good, not necessarily alone, but you're part of co-creating that reality.
Yes.
And knowing that.
Mm.
Salima, you talked a little bit about your coaching. You coach women mostly midlife, to find their voice, to be themselves. What are your main learnings of that?
So I do two forms of coaching. So one, I work with women, well, actually not just women, I've got some male clients actually as well. I work with people in terms of public speaking, but not in a traditional, I want to give a big speech to a big room. I mean, I do that as well, but people who want to lean into what their like voice is, whatever that is. I worked with a client recently who is an amazing public speaker, actually. I've seen him speak, big rooms, but freezes in very personal situations. And so we've been working at how can he find who he is, in those kind of more personal moments. So it's about finding your voice. Yeah. So I love that kind of work, because then people can work out how to be a leader in their personal life, how in their professional life, and very much, with their own voice. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of coaching is relational dynamic coaching. That's what I'm trained in. And that's more traditional life coaching, I suppose. Those are very different sessions. And that's about, well, I tend to work with, for whatever reason, women who are navigating shifts in their lives, be it motherhood, be it career. But I think the reason you would work with me, would be because you want to get in touch with who you are and like what your strengths are. So I probably work differently to some other coaches in that sense, that like my real passion is for you to learn to tell your own story. And I think telling one's own story, whether that is in a team meeting, whether that is going on a date, whether that is just like, I don't know, being in a shop, telling your story and knowing which part of the story to tell and when is a really great skill to have.
Yeah, it's a superpower. And Salima, you lead with that so beautifully, because as you explained earlier, that you're so excited by this next phase of your life, because you are going for it, which is such a beautiful thing to hear a woman say in her midlife, when we're often reminded of all the things we've lost and we have to grieve and so on and so on. So we can really get down and out about this phase and the menopause and everything that sort of is in that time period for many women. So, Salima, what are your plans and goals? Tell us. Your memoir is coming out. You're writing another novel. What are the things that you're planning?
My plans and my goals. I have to think about this, because I could give you a whole list, but I think we've covered that, and that's just like tick, 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 tick. My plans and my goals. Joy. Yeah. I think joy is my overriding goal. I don't think there's any other goal that I have so present, like in the forefront of my head. Like that's, I can kind of see the word joy, I found joy really difficult to access at points in my life, to be honest. Like I found it really hard to be just like unencumbered and joyful. I think it comes really easily to some people. And it hasn't always to me, because I've always kind of worried about what's over the horizon. So, yeah, I'm not going to say anything else other than joy. Joy is my goal.
Salima, and what would you like our listeners to take away from your story?
Turn up, participate, turn up as yourself, and leap. Like, if you think you might want to leap, 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 leap.
Beautiful. Salima, and my last question would be, and I sometimes ask entrepreneurs what their message would be to our government. And I think I would love to ask you if you had one message for the 7 or 8 billion people on this planet. For example, if you could write a postcard to every human, what sentence would it say on there?
God love us all.
Mm.
I would say that because I think we are all so much more similar to one another than any of us realize, regardless of political beliefs, particularly in this very binary world that we now live in, regardless of obviously religious or cultural differences. Like, we are all so connected and so similar in what makes us tick and what we actually want, so God love us all.
I love that. And I always say that. I say it all the time. We are so much more united than divided, and we've lost the way to see it. And so we have to listen to those stories and tune everything else out. Salima, I'm so grateful for you to lead joyfully and bashfully into this next phase of not being afraid and showing that action creates action, which I love. And I'm so thankful for you to be telling your story for She Can.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.